You are the person where the Roman Empire, what men think about thing probably started.
To call me an onion would do me a disfavor to how many layers I have.
Well,
welcome to Wait What? Sports Biz Chat with DP and McGee, the podcast where we take a sometimes irreverent, sometimes cynical, and yes, even a sometimes serious look at the business of sports. I'm your co-host, Tim McGee.
and I'm David Parro.
David, what is on your mind, although I think I have a good idea?
Well, I mean, the first thing on my mind is I love seeing you back in your outdoor setting. I actually like that set. I know we'll have some ambient noise we may need to deal with, but I think it's nice to see. It's a beautiful day here in the tri-state area. So hope you can enjoy some of that weather. Listen, there's so many things obviously to talk about. Obviously, the conclusion of the Stanley Cup playoffs and the NBA finals, and of course, World Cup going on. But I think we need to start with the college football scandal, the gambling scandal that happened literally minutes after we got off the microphones last week, and news came across of the judge in Lubbock County, Texas, basically giving Brendan Sorsby, the Texas Tech quarterback, a stay, if you will, to be able to actually play. Meaning he was banned from playing in the Big 12, and the judge decided that he didn't want to hurt, I guess, Brendan Sorsby's career, and gave him a chance to play.
I'm sorry, but let's remind our listeners why he wasn't allowed to play. He admitted placing, $300,000 in bets?
Yeah,
including bets on teams,
thousands of individual bets, yes.
Including on teams he was playing for.
Correct.
And I think if there is one unforgivable sin, one cardinal sin in sports, that judge in Texas may be the only person who doesn't subscribe to that.
Literally the only person that seemingly didn't understand the reddest of red lines that you can possibly draw. And
one that he shouldn't even come close to approach it. No less.
And this goes with, you can talk hypocrisy in the fact that everybody's accepting the money from the gambling companies all you want. And I'm sure that fed into, a potential decision, or at least that decision to temporarily allow him to play. But other than that person, and I guess Ken Paxton, the AG of Texas, that seemed to support the decision, or at least when he got involved in it, because there was what I'm kind of calling the battle of the AGs. Like every attorney general in any state that is covered by the Big 12 came out against the ruling, supporting the conference's ability to be able to penalize as they see fit. And then Paxton decided to say that nobody could penalize, because people were starting to say they're going to go after Texas Tech or ban, not play Texas Tech. Charlie Baker, the head of the NCAA, came out. He didn't even know what to say at how ridiculous this ruling seemed to be. Now, the update on all this is that it's ending up a shorter story than we thought, because of the action that the Big 12, took in saying that they were going to challenge and continue to press ahead. Got a lot of the AGs, supporting that type of effort. And Sorsby ultimately decided he's going to join the supplemental draft and end this craziness. The problem is, does that ruling, and I don't think it will, I'll just say that, create any sort of odd precedent of this stuff happening? And again, he admitted to it. They had him. It wasn't like it was a question of whether he did it. It was just the craziest thing. And again, I think it just shows how fraught all of this is with gambling, especially if you get it in the hands of a potentially sympathetic judge.
I applaud 𝘨𝘰𝘯𝘵 for taking a leadership position that they were going to do everything in their power to not allow this kid to play. A gambling addiction, like any other addiction, is a sickness, is an illness. And I hope he gets treatment for it, and I hope he overcomes that addiction and goes on to lead a long and productive life in whatever field he chooses, whether it's football or something else. I would question whether an NFL team is going to take a chance on this kid. I don't know if he had played this year, I don't know where he would be in a mock draft, but given all that other stuff going on, I don't know what team takes takes a chance on.
Other than Mendoza, what's the Raiders' quarterback depth chart look like?
Well, they are, followed closely by the Cowboys.
Oh yeah, I agree with you. I think Brett showed some leadership. I think most of the sport in college sports showed a certain, because everybody was out against what happened. They needed to do it, because if this were to stand and he ended up playing, you talk about losing any sort of teeth in any sort of enforcement that you may ever try to do again. I think they ended up being pretty lucky, but they helped force the hand of Brendan Sorsby.
Yes, for sure. Staying on the gambling sort of motif, if you will, we got through the UFC bout at the White House.
By
And
the
there was
skin
a
of our
report.
teeth.
Yeah, there was a report that came out shortly before that with a journalist who covers UFC. I don't know if you use the term journalist and UFC in the same breath, but who was approached by Eric Trump, 𝘬𝘂𝘀𝘀𝘀, as I like to call him, asking if there were any injuries, basically asking if any of the bouts would be rigged. The reporter said, rightfully so, "I can't believe you're even asking this." He posted them and then shortly took them down. We can only imagine why he took them down shortly after that. But not to be outdone by 𝘬𝘂𝘀𝘀, his brother 𝘚𝘚 was captured on camera pulling something out of his pocket, looked to be a small packet of something, and then brought it up towards his facial area. I won't speculate any more than that, but stay classy, Washington, D.C.
Do you want to go back into the reference of the Iraq War situation at all to say your comparison? Because a lot, some of our audience, because we appeal to that younger executive audience.
I happen to
might
think
not
that our
remember.
audience is so well read that they will get the
I think
reference
so.
to 𝘬𝘂𝘀𝘀 and 𝘚𝘂𝘀 Hussein, sons of deposed Iraqi leader Saddam Hussein. But your point is well taken. I could have gone with Beavis and Butthead.
There are some things about this event that took place on the 14th in Washington, D.C. that weren't bad. It was, from a sports standpoint, it was great for UFC. It was great for Paramount Plus, by the way. Apparently their numbers were unbelievable. They put a good card together. I think that the problem with all of this is and I know that Dana White and TKO overall will say that it had nothing to do with politics. They got invited to do it and they put on a show that they apparently spent on. I think it ends up benefiting the UFC quite a bit. The challenge that we have in the times that we live in, of course, is everything is made political by the political side of it, not necessarily the sports side of it. And so everybody has to play ball.
You have the president who recently made an investment in TKO Holdings, the parent company of UFC. And while short term this may have lost money, at least according to Dana White, it cost them $30 million. To your point, it certainly benefits UFC in the long run. Now, my question, and it is a rhetorical one, if this was to celebrate America and it was done for Americans, why was it put behind a paywall?
Yeah, I am no way defending that side of it. I
No, I know,
found
I
most
know
of
you're-
it, most of it completely
Well,
ridiculous. But sport being part of it too, and I think that's the sucky thing about where we are on this stuff, is sport being part of the 250th celebration birthday of this country is awesome.
they should have had it somewhere else, right?
Yeah,
maybe,
they should have had it
maybe Soldier
anywhere
Field,
else
right?
but there, and probably not falling on a specific birthday of somebody, not
right, a
not
venue
necessarily
that
the
wasn't
country's
being
birthday.
used.
So it is a little
You and
ridiculous.
I are not making this. I'm sorry, David. I just want to say you and I are not making this political,
Right.
right? The host of this event and the location of this event made it such that it could be nothing but political.
Right. And, and Dana is smart and says it's not political. I just happen to be friends with him. Well, he's friends with him for a reason. I mean, let's be honest about that. And he plays it well. And I will make one other comment about, we've talked about this before. Is there any sports league leader, commissioner, president, or otherwise that more personifies the brand, or literally is the brand of that sport, than Dana White is with UFC?
Yeah, it would be like if Michael Jordan were the commissioner of the NBA.
Right. If and nothing personifies that more. I don't know if you saw this, but a Dodge Ram commercial, because clearly they're a big backer of the sport. He's the featured person in it. He literally is the guy driving the car around, and the theme is "In Loud We Trust." I mean, can you imagine Adam Silver doing an ad for their their lead sponsor. I
For
just don't
driving a
think so.
Kia.
And actually like getting people excited about it. I will say this: there was that ridiculous moment after one fight. I'm not going to dignify by saying the fighter's name because I haven't even bothered to learn it. Making the ridiculous comment at the end of the fight about Michelle Obama. Dana White quickly came out and, to his credit, made sure that there's no place for that. Of course, I still think some people are waiting for the White House to make a response on that, a comment on that, since it was on their grounds, or
Don't wait.
maybe
Don't hold your breath.
𝘬𝘂𝘀𝘶 will. I don't
Well,
know.
just to keep the historical references going, right? You had 𝘬𝘰𝘯𝘵 and 𝘂𝘀𝘃, and then you had 𝘊𝘰𝘯𝘵, right? The emperor. Are you not entertained?
Are you? Yeah.
Right. For those of you who don't know, 𝘊𝘰𝘯𝘵 was the Roman Empire featured in the movie Gladiator, starring Academy Award winner Russell
Well,
Crowe. What a lot of people don't know is 𝘊𝘰𝘯𝘵 was actually the son of Marcus Aurelius, a very highly
wait,
respected
what?
Roman emperor.
What? I mean,
Yeah,
how deep are you going to go here in
that's about as
your?
deep as I'm going to go.
Okay, but that's
His
pretty
son
good.
killed his father.
Yeah. Did you learn this from the movie, or did you
No,
just
no.
know your Roman Empire history? I bet you took a Roman Empire. You know, you are the person where the Roman Empire, what men think about, thing probably started.
To call me an onion would do me a disfavor to how many layers I have.
Well, hey, let's stay on gambling as we introduce and start talking some World Cup, because I just saw today a player from the Ivory Coast, 2 weeks before traveling over to North America, had been cited and arrested, actually, for, I guess he was caught, or they believe that he wasn't held. They obviously released him, but they're still investigating it for drawing a yellow card with all kinds of betting activity. He plays in Ligue 1 for Nice, and in a match there, he got a yellow card, and there was some betting on that. He's a really good player, by the way.
He started for Côte
Yeah,
d'Ivoire.
yeah,
He hit a crossbar in the second half of their first match. Do we want to
yeah.
talk a little bit lighter note about how great this tournament has been
Well,
so far?
I just want to, I was just using that as a transition
No.
because, it's
Okay.
kind of hit there and all of these things are happening. But yes, we can talk on a lighter note because I think World Cup is big time delivering. Yeah.
Other than Germany's dismantling of Curaçao 7-1, kudos to Curaçao for getting on the board, by the way. Most of the matches, I mean, have been,
Wayne Gretzky knows how to say that country name now. Maybe.
but a lot of the matches have been to form. They haven't been blowouts. I think that was the big concern, going from 32 countries to 48 countries. But there have been some great matches. The U.S. opening match against Paraguay, U.S. looked really, really good.
Strong.
I think, unfortunately, that's going to set up some unrealistic expectations. They should have beaten Paraguay. U.S. is the 17th ranked nation in the World Cup standings. Paraguay is 41st. They should have won. They did win. I'm not diminishing their victory. You've got to get out of the group stage, but I think it's going to be very difficult once they get to the knockout stage. There are, if you watch that match last night with Algeria and Argentina looks like if you recall that during the Qatar
Yep.
World Cup, they lost their first match.
Yep.
And they came out and was Messi 3, Algeria nothing.
Yeah.
They looked in great form.
And Spain, drew against Cape Verde.
Yeah.
Which was a shock. I mean, I wrote you right after that because it was surprising. Spain is definitely one of the favorites going into this, is my pick, as some of you may recall from last week's show. But yeah, they'll settle in. They're too great. France look good, which is your pick. We'll see England and Croatia. Just to let you know, I think you know this. I'm Croatian on my father's side.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And Croatia, because Italy sucks so bad, is the national team I tend to follow outside of US, and they play England today, and I tend to be excited about England. Too many friends that are big fans of Three Lions, so I'm definitely going to be pulling for Croatia on that. I would imagine England has the upper hand in that match, but we'll see. These first games are getting their feet under them, getting comfortable, sizing up, and so forth. So I do think Spain will be very much in the mix as the tournament progresses.
The goalkeeper for Cape Verde was Vazuna. He went from 50,000 followers on social to 2.1 million just in the span of a day or two after that match.
Yeah, the interview with him after the match was so great. He talked about just the how important this was for the country and what it meant to him as a player and representing the country and just being on there. And he played well too. I mean, he was unbelievable. So that was cool, but that's what World Cup is. And what I've been happiest about, because we've predicted some things and there definitely are some operational challenges, but I think they're less than we expected. The stadia look pretty full, and the talk is on the pitch. There have been some issues with the referee not being allowed in, and Infantino kind of having a weird comment about it's not our problem, that's the local. So no standing up for that particular official, which I thought was weird. The Iranian team having to kind of get out of country right after match seemed a little odd. And so there will continue to be some of those things, but most of the focus is on the pitch. I think the broadcast and the variety of stuff that Fox is doing is great. I'm just getting a kick out of that studio show. I'm a big fan of Thierry Henry and his commentary. Obviously, during that French match, he was definitely a homer. But seeing Zlatan and Lawless kind of go at it, like, there's a weird thing going on there, but I think it will end up being very entertaining. 𝘕𝘂𝘀𝘶 is just he's a big cocky guy, but I think he's pretty entertaining, right? I mean, he was that as a player, right?
He's as cocky on the broadcast as he was as a player.
He's so cocky, and I don't know if they're just saying play it up, because he was basically saying if Holland has a great World Cup, maybe he's in the category of me. But he doesn't want to, because he just says there's no greater player ever than him, and I don't think that's the case. It almost seems like Alexei and Zlatan really don't like each other, but I don't know. Maybe it's just all an act, but I think it's working.
Yeah.
We'll see as it progresses.
The Bleacher Report just came out with the top 100 footballers of all time. 𝘕𝘂𝘀𝘶, he may have been in the top 5, definitely in the top 10.
Yeah.
Not surprisingly, Messi was 1, Pele was 2.
Well, in a way, he's similar to how Haaland plays, right? Big guy, just physically imposing, but also just ridiculously athletic. I think it's been an incredible event so far. I'm happy with that. I think the matches will continue to get great. When the U.S. comes out again, I agree with your point about the expectations. I said last week, I don't see them necessarily going far. I think you said if they get out of group play, that's a win, and I agree with that. But they made the right first step in doing that in their opening match, which was impressive. And apparently the numbers were great. Like, this is capturing the attention as I think we in the sports industry hoped it would. And I'm sure that certainly FIFA did, and MLS, and for that matter, NWSL, and any people involved in the sport in this country. Yeah,
24.9 million viewership for that USA Paraguay match. We'll see if 𝘚liche plays tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or Friday, excuse me.
He really did impress. I mean, those couple, he set up 2 of the goals just brilliantly. I mean, he looked like a really solid, top-notch player when he was on. Obviously, they maintained, in the second half, which he didn't play. I want to talk about something that I think has been kind of funny, and it's, we talk about sponsorship a lot, as our listeners know this, but there are no branded stadiums. All the names of the stadiums, many of which have naming rights partners, have been pulled off of the stadium, and they go by the city. Boston Stadium, Mexico City Stadium. Arrowhead, I thought they were going to allow keep, but I think in terms of consistency, they're calling it Kansas City. But mostly, it's a clean venue thing. Mm-hmm. In Santa Clara, Levi Stadium is is it Santa Clara or San Francisco Stadium?
Well, I think they're calling it San Francisco area stadium or something.
Yeah, okay, well, that's ridiculous. But in covering up the logo, they put a cloth, a tarp, if you will, in the shape of the Levi's logo over it, which I think was brilliant and perfect and was funny and got a lot of social play, even if they end up changing that. But as of right now, I think it's still in place.
Actually changed their profile picture to be the covered up logo, which I thought was brilliant.
Which is great, and one of the fun things about this business. I knew at the very beginning, because the first match was, of course, Mexico playing in Mexico City, and they have a very famous stadium, Estadio Azteca, which I know the announcers even said it's going to be hard not to call it that. And that's not a naming rights deal. There's actually another name for it, but but that was covered up. The one thing that got me a little wigged, and this isn't necessarily a knock at SBJ, but why does SBJ need to call Gillette Stadium Boston Stadium in their reporting? I mean, that seems ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
Playing the game, I guess.
Yeah. During that Mexico match, they referred to it as 𝘚𝘂𝘀𝘶 many times.
They sure did.
And I'm not sure if that was on purpose or simply out of force of habit or what it was. But
well, in Kansas City, they were also talking about, how great everything is in a full Arrowhead Stadium. Now, again, not a naming rights deal there. That has a different name actually now, but I think it's something field, right, at Arrowhead Stadium. I forget when we had Mark Donovan on. We talked about that because that deal had just gotten done. But there's it's still slipping in because sports broadcasters are sports broadcasters and they'll call things what they are. But overall, I get the clean venue concept. It has to be the case given the sponsorship stuff, and that's probably the smart way to go. I just thought it was a little ridiculous in media coverage, which I don't think there's a ban on sports media, sports business media, necessarily calling it that, but I guess they're just playing along. Yeah,
you shouldn't be able to control the press.
Great first week. It's been fun, and I think it's been fun getting comments and questions from people in Europe, asking what's the vibe like there, and I'm like, well, we're all just coming off the Knicks win in the NBA Finals here in New York,
which we haven't even talked about,
which we are going to, I think, next, I hope. Right. But it's been fun reporting back that the vibe is very, very positive, and I think people are getting excited, not just about the U.S. team, which I think a lot of people are, but about this tournament being here. And it also does showcase, I know a lot of people are visiting, but this country, if nothing else, is an unbelievably complex quilt of nationalities, and seeing them all come out, there is not a population not represented here, and they're seeming to show up, whether it's local or people traveling into those markets, and that's, I think, very cool. Now, obviously, when Brazil opened up play at Meadowlands, at MetLife, talk about a fan base, right, coming out.
Yeah, and if you're a fan, and you're going from a match in Kansas City to a match in Boston, or Seattle to New York, or LA to Dallas, right? You're seeing, very different aspects of this country as well, because no two markets are really very similar to one another.
Well, you want to talk a little about
the most highly rated NBA final since 1998 and Michael Jordan's last championship with the Bulls?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they closed it out in 5 games. The NBA would have liked it to go a few more because it was just great and they were hitting good numbers. But the games were just unbelievable, and almost every game, right? New York had to claw out of a deficit that they had gotten themselves in. The Spurs are going to be around for a while. They not only have this generational superstar in Victor Wembanyama, but they have a great young team. I mean, Harper was just off the charts great in that series as well.
They're going to be very good for ostensibly a long time. I think the problem was that youth, whether it was the players' youthfulness or the coach's youthfulness, but they just couldn't deliver a 48-minute performance in any of those games. I was, texting with friends of mine during Game 5 when the Knicks were only down 10 at the end of the first period in Game 5. You almost felt like they were winning at that point.
Yeah,
because of the way the series had gone to that point.
And Barkley called it right there. He's like, they're winning this game basically. If they couldn't have a bigger lead going in, and lo and behold, Jalen Brunson, who is one of the gutsiest players I think I've ever watched play, and kind of put them on their back again. But it is a team, and it was a team built well. Yes, Brunson is the big star, and he's the one that came through with the big points. But every player on that team, and not to go fanboy on this, but every player on that team that got time contributed at one point or another. Robinson's massive rebound in that moment. Obviously, Anunoby's play in Game 4, which was just legend.
What is somewhat overlooked, not entirely, but somewhat, is that Cat was put on the inbounds pass after that, right? So a great coaching move by Brown, and then got his fingertip on it, which made it a more difficult pass to complete.
Yep.
And, they didn't
Yeah.
wind up getting a shot on it.
He called those courtside seat people. He said, like, stand up and move in. And the refs didn't do anything. I think that's what he did. It looks like it's possible. I'll say this. Even all of the hate that went toward the Knicks and in the previous series to OKC, I think totally unfairly, ended up being good for business. I had a quick exchange after game 4, I guess. I think I wrote to Kelly and just said just how great this all has been for us. And she goes, yes, it's really good for business, which I thought was funny. And New York being in there, and then this team with this superstar young player that happens to be 7'4" plus it was good for business.
He did not comport himself particularly well. Donnie Deutsch was saying the other day that he thinks that it will cost him tens of millions of dollars in endorsement deal. I don't think the damage will be that bad. But he refused to shake hands after the series. And I understand you're upset. I understand that, you are a warrior and you've gone to battle, but there's a thing called sportsmanship, and maybe I'm old fashioned, but I still believe in it.
Yeah, it's reminiscent of what the Pistons did in that one time when the Bulls finally got over that hump and got past them to go on to the finals. And that hurt. That certainly did hurt Isaiah long term, that type of thing. Listen, if he comes back and he wins and he has a lot to learn, I think it'll blow over. So I don't agree with that sentiment necessarily. But he did several things. He also did he showed that he was a bit of a dirty player. And for all of the people that were pulling for the Spurs and saying that SGA is just constantly flopping, I think there's a lot of, stuff that he's doing as well, always looking for the call.
What would have been really interesting was if the Spurs were able to win Game 5, the NBA would have had to review that play. Nothing was called in which Wemby stepped in and Brunson landed on his foot. That's a flagrant 2.
Yeah.
That's pretty clear in the rule book and in terms of areas of emphasis for officials. But they didn't call anything, nor did they call anything when he body slammed Brunson. I'm not going to be a conspiracy theorist and say that, he's going to get all the calls like LeBron does supposedly, or Jordan supposedly did. But those were 2 big calls that were missed. And had the flagrant been called the first time, and had the flagrant been called in Game 5, he would have been immediately disqualified.
Yeah.
Even if they were flagrant ones.
You're right, because we don't want to tread in that conspiracy area. My view is that there was no doubt that there's a certain level of protection of him. And there was protection of Jordan, I think. You don't want him out of the game. I agree.
So why would you protect Wemby over Brunson? You have
I don't get that.
It wasn't like you're protecting Landry Shamet over Wemby.
Brunson gets so beaten up on every play, it seems to me. And we're okay. Everybody, just so you know, both Tim and I were pulling for the Knicks in this series. Well, as fans, we were pulling for the Knicks. So there's a little bit of that. But it seems to me he doesn't get any calls. They maul him at half court coming across. And Castle was brilliant doing it. They kind of had him figured out pretty much for 3/4 every game. but they never seemed to figure him out. And there were a couple signature things. The play where Brunson took, the 2 signature plays of the series were the shot that OG put back to win it, and then the play that happened after with the tipped inbound play. But that shot that Brunson took over Wemby, OG tips it in. And then Brunson taking Wemby off the dribble from the top of the key with like 3 hesitations, a stutter, a little shoulder push, no doubt about it, and got the ball up. And Brunson's 6'1", if that.
No,
I think he lists at 6'2", but he's over a 7'5" guy. I'm not saying 7'4" because he's definitely taller than that. And that was signature, and that is to me the shot of the game. That and the rebound that Robinson got on over him, which sealed the game, in my opinion. Right.
Yep.
Anyway, it was the fact that we're talking about all these moments, I think, just shows how captivating this was, and the numbers certainly, I think, bear that out. Okay, we're definitely going into fan talk here, aren't we?
That's okay. Yeah. We don't do it very often.
And we should say this, and congratulations not only to the Knicks, but of course the Carolina Hurricanes, because they closed out the Vegas Golden Knights in their series, a very good, very close Stanley Cup Finals, and their numbers were very good. They're not approaching, not surprisingly, the numbers that the NBA did, but very, very good numbers over any recent history numbers.
Yeah, great series. Tale of two coaches. Tortorella's already out in Las Vegas. I don't know if you saw the clip. Rod Brindamore taking off his shirt in the locker room after the game. That guy's cut. He looks like he could still play.
Yeah, different breed.
Yeah, that was a great series. I mean, I didn't have a dog in that fight, but it was a great series. And I thought Hurricanes had won a lot more recently than they had. That was 20 years since their last cup.
I did too, because they've been a successful organization since coming on. The NHL has been unbelievable in getting teams up to speed pretty quickly, because obviously the Vegas Golden Knights are the biggest example of that, having won and going to 3 Stanley Cup Finals since they started.
And winning one and
it's not like the Florida Panthers have been around. They're not an original 6 team, and they've been unbelievable as well. But it's, in the Tampa Bay Lightning. Mm-hmm. So, these teams that have come on, they assimilate quite well. NHL does a good job of doing that. And back to the point that, Ed Horn made, who has more hockey roots than we even knew when we spoke with him last week, that going into the season, thinking you have a shot, original 6 teams are good. The Canadians were good this year, and some of these newer teams are showing their ability to actually win it all, and that's good for business.
Do you know how much this is hurting me to hear you say this? Because they haven't won a cup since 1983.
Yeah, the Rangers have sucked for the last couple years too, but they were good in very recent past.
They had a window where it looked like they had a chance, but I've had this conversation with David Aberton, who runs hockey marketing for CAA. He's a huge hockey fan. I think the Stanley Cup is the most difficult championship to win in team sports, followed closely by the World Cup.
It's absolutely brutal, and it's so physical, and what you have to put yourself through, and then think about the concept of repeating. Think about how much the players that make long runs put themselves through. It's one of the things that I was always amazed at when the Blackhawks had their most recent, where they were really good under John McDonough as president, after the Wirtz, the father, had passed away, and it moved over to they had this unbelievable run, got Jonathan Toews, got Patrick Kane. They were a great team, and it was amazing that they kept coming back after these really, really long seasons. And then what happened? It all fell apart. They had a scandal that I think kind of led to some of this. The team broke up, and they've struggled to get back. It just shows you that you're always on that edge, and long-term dynasties in sport are hard to come by. So you have to respect when teams are able to do it. But having that balance across the league is great. Again, I'll just say it again. I'm sorry to keep going on this point. It's great for business.
You talk about, players and what they go through. Jordan Stahl's 37, won the Conn Smythe Award. That, he played through the whole playoff series. It's tough, but any successful franchise has similar things in common. They have an owner with deep pockets who knows when to step in and when to not. They have great front office leadership on both the business side and the sporting side. They have great scouting, they have great coaching, and they have a winning culture. The one thing I like most about this Knicks team is there's not a bad guy on the team. You know what? Like, you listen to these interviews, and they're either cutting up, or they're very thoughtful and insightful in their comments. They clearly care about each other, and you've met plenty of athletes. I've been fortunate to meet a lot of basketball players and coaches through my work with the Naismith, and they're not all good guys.
Yeah. And listen, that's a subjective thing. And I think sometimes people have expectations of people always being perfect, and they're not. They're human beings just like we are.
It's not about perfection.
I agree. So I agree with your point there, and I agree with what you're saying about the Knicks. And if this was a classic example of that, because it does seem like Dolan kind of stepped out of that. Leon Rose,
as soon as he hired Leon Rose,
unbelievable what he did. There was a moment, and I'm going to go back to what happened on the court. You'll recall in the comeback game 4, when they erased the 29-point deficit, Josh Hart had a steal, and he went down and he went up and he went awkwardly up, didn't know if he was going to dunk, misses a layup.
Yep, I remember
he was
that.
looking over his shoulder and he just botched it. He knew he botched it. On the next play down the court on the defensive end, he fell to the ground. He falls almost every play because he gets knocked around and he throws himself into everything. 3 Knicks ran instantly over to Hart. In that moment, even more aggressively than they normally do, to pick him up off the ground. I thought that to me was and I noticed it right away. I thought that is emblematic of what this team was. And I think it showed. They're like, dude, you one bad play, you're the key. And if you ever hear Jalen Brunson talk about, even though they kid each other all the time, he will say he's kind of the key to all this. Because anything that needs to get done, he gets done. And the number of offensive rebounds that guy gets in a series against a guy that big, he just does it. And now he doesn't shoot well every game, but he was pretty critical. And he said after, he goes, that he got bailed out in that game, because that would have been hard for him to live with had they lost that game and then gone on to lose that series. Anyway, I was so impressed with that. And that's a winning culture. I give a lot of credit to Mike Brown on that, and I give a lot of credit for all the players buying in and playing the team game, even though they have a superstar in Jalen Brunson that's going to take a shit ton of shots down the stretch.
Yeah. It's going to be tough to keep that team together.
Sure will.
They've got a bunch of free agents, most notably Mitchell Robinson, Landry Shamet, who I mentioned earlier, Clarkson, a couple of other guys. So it's, they're going to, Leon Rose is going to earn his money, because it's a question of what have you done for me lately?
Yeah.
I would, if I'm Mitchell Robinson, I would take a portion of my winnings, maybe hire a free throw coach. I mean, there's something, I would hire 2 people. I would hire a free throw coach, and I would hire a sports psychologist.
Shaq never really learned to do it too, because it's like throwing a tennis ball. I don't know. Wemby shooting free throws as well as he does is pretty, except down the stretch, because he wasn't able to do that. And that was important too. Listen, I'll tell you one thing. Every team in the NBA right now wants to find their next Anunoby. I'll say that. A player that just can shoot, can go to the hoop, can board, and plays frickin' lockup D.
A superstar was born during that series, and he won a ring with Toronto, but he didn't. I didn't realize this until after the series. He didn't play in that series. He had an appendicitis. So on the team, won a ring. I don't want to diminish his contribution throughout the season, but he didn't play in the finals.
Yeah, right.
Because of that appendicitis.
What do you think?
Take a break?
We cover it on? Let's take a break and come back for a quick close.
You share with me.
Okay, we are back. If you didn't notice, we did not have a guest this week. We were supposed to, but there were some reasonable reasons why we don't. We'll be back next week with another great guest. But this has been fun, Tim, to have this type of discussion, especially given the launch of World Cup and all the other exciting things going on in the business of sports. So this is the time of the show where we do something different every time, whatever really strikes our fancy, shout outs, apologies, predictions, and things that we might be looking forward to. So Tim, what do you have your eye on?
So first of all, I want to give you a shout out, because you said long before the World Cup started, that your biggest concern was protest. And in fact, there were protesters. There were anti-Iranian regime protesters outside of SoFi Stadium. So you certainly get credit for that prediction.
Not the protest prediction I was expecting, but thank you for giving me the point.
I don't think you were that specific. So yeah, you get full credit.
Thank you.
Shout out to Lewis Hamilton, who won the Spanish Grand Prix at the age of 41, the oldest Grand Prix winner since 1970. I do not know who won in 1970, but Lewis Hamilton showing he's still got a little bit of magic left in his driving.
Yeah, it was pretty special, because I think that most people would have guessed that Charles Leclerc, who just re-signed with Ferrari for a number of years, is kind of the favored son there now in a way, despite Hamilton still having this great global following. It was pretty remarkable. I watched the race, and he is in his top form. The team is starting to maybe challenge Mercedes a little bit, and he is very appreciative. Now, the next time he does not have a good car, he will let his team know. I am certain of that. But yeah, he's good for F1 business. Common theme this week.
I think we got the title for this week's episode.
Okay, yeah.
What else do you have on your mind? What are you looking for?
I want to give a shout out to not just a past guest, but a past guest and the company he works for, and that's 𝘕𝘂𝘀𝘀𝘀. I read something about the commitment that Airbnb and their host city impact program, and I saw the list of the things that they supported. And one thing that really stood out was because Philadelphia apparently was really freaked out about potential backlogs and jams at that one transfer station, and they had a program where you could apply for grants. They put up a ton of money, and in Philadelphia, it went toward taking people on the, I think it was the SEPTA line, which is Southeast Pennsylvania Transit Authority, having grown up in that area. And so fans could get on the trains for free, and that saved a lot of time and helped with some of the backlog. But some of the other things they did, 11 new and refurbished soccer mini pitches across New York, New Jersey, and California, more than $1 million invested in green infrastructure for youth soccer access in Houston, over 3,000 free tickets donated to youth in underserved communities, and the list goes on that they did it. And yes, a lot of sponsors do stuff like this, but it was good to see it get some attention. And it goes back to, my feeling always has been that in sponsorship, if you can find a way to connect with that community on a cause or things that people are important to people, and you can pick up some of that help and provide actual value to those communities, then you're doing something right with your sponsorship. So
at the end of the day, you know why Airbnb does it, right?
Of course.
It's good for business.
It's good for business. Right.
I had to say it once.
There you go. This show is like seriously wrapping its bow so naturally around itself. It's incredible. And obviously looking forward to the US Open. I do think we need to make our predictions since it's the third major of the year, and I don't think we did it during the PGA Championship. We probably should have. But I'll go and give mine first. It's being played here on Long, but a big year for Long Island, where you grew up, my friend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and none of it involved Joey Buttafuoco.
Yeah. All
what
right,
do you got?
I'm going to go with Cam Young. It's a bit of a homer pick. He's a Wake Forest player that got very close in the Masters. I don't know if he can recover to do it, but I do like his game. And I'm going to have a minor backup because I think it would be a good time for Jon Rahm to win a major and then say, screw this, man. Whatever deal you can, and negotiate his own separate deal to get back on the tour.
I'm going to go with J.J. Spaun.
Wow. It'd be like Andy North of the 2000s, because North won, I think, 2 U.S. Opens, maybe more, Wisconsin guy, and pretty much no other tournament. My friend Pete Merrill, who is a Wisconsin guy, will probably correct me on that, but that would be unbelievable if Spaun comes out and wins another U.S. Open. One other story I guess we should be looking at related to golf is your paisano, Rory. Man, there is not an opinion he is not touching on. He is very down on this track 1, track 2 concept that Brian Rolapp has rolled out for the PGA Tour. And he commented that the track 2 events, which are the lower level events, are basically like Korn Ferry tournament events, and you can't, like, Rory can't say stuff. Rolapp has to go talk to him, right? He can't just be off saying this shit.
He's an independent contractor.
He's an independent contractor. That's the way it works. And listen, obviously, I'm thrilled. The game will be finished before we publish this event, but I'm very excited about the England-Croatia match happening today and the rest. And what I really want to see is how the broadcast ends up evolving during World Cup as the tournament. I'm very excited to see what Fox is actually kind of bringing to this. So that's what I've got. All right. So I think with that, we will wrap this show up. 159 if you're counting. Thank you, Tim, as always, for a great discussion. This was fun. Every once in a while, it is fun to do this without a guest.
Just every once in a while.
Yeah, just every once in a while. But just so much stuff going on, and it's just fun to have these conversations. And thank you all for spending time with us. We appreciate it. Check us out on Spotify, on Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us, iHeartRadio, etc. And then you can also go, of course, to dpandmcgee.com. And we hope you'll also engage with us on LinkedIn, where we spend most of our social media time, I guess. So with that, I'm DP. He's McGee. We'll talk soon.